Praise Yahweh.
Praise Yahweh.
Yahweh, we thank you for today. We thank you for another blessed week. Tonight we gather in your presence with open hearts and open minds, ready to worship and praise your name. Fill our hearts with your Ruach. May we be always open to the leading of your teaching. We pray for your guidance and wisdom in today's word and fellowship. And we pray in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. So shall it be.
Shall it be. Well, thank you guys for joining today for this meeting. So today, we are going to be learning how we can be productive in a way that aligns with Yahweh's will and plan for us and for the entire world. How we can be productive in a way that aligns with Yahweh's will and plan. Our approach to productivity is not, and it should not be, just about completing tasks. It is about being effective in advancing Yahweh's kingdom and fulfilling His will and His purpose in our lives. The first thing I want to share is something that I have mentioned many times before, but I need to share it because I believe it's one of the most important things that we can do and that we can learn if we want to be productive. And that first point is to focus on intention, not on distraction. I have mentioned this so many times to you guys. Focus on intention, not on distraction. So I don't know if you guys have notebooks or whatever, you want to write that down. The first thing is focus on intention, not on distraction. And if you guys want to write down as well, Matthew, the book of Matthew, Mattityahu, chapter 6, verses 22 to 23. Mattityahu, chapter 6, verses 22 to 23. In this chapter, Yahushua says, your eye is like a lamp that provides life for your body. When your eye is healthy, your whole body is filled with light. But when your eye is unhealthy, your whole body is filled with darkness. And if the light you think you have is actually darkness, how deep that darkness is. So this verse is telling us that what we choose to focus, the things that we choose to focus on, affect us in everything that we do, in everything we are. Whatever we choose to focus on affect us in every single area of our lives. So the passage talks about when people focus on worldly things instead of focusing on Yahweh alone. When we have clear intentions that align with Yahweh's will, we set ourselves up for success because Yahweh is always faithful and He is trustworthy. So by focusing on Him alone, we are setting up ourselves for success because He will never fail to His promises. We are the one that often fail to follow His leading, to follow His principles, but He will never fail. He is faithful and He's trustworthy. On that same passage, on that same chapter, in verses 31 to 34, it says, so don't worry about these things, saying, what we will eat, what will we drink, or what we will wear. These things dominate the thoughts of unbelievers, but your heavenly Father already knows all your needs. Seek the kingdom of Yahweh above all else and live righteously, and He will give you everything you need. So don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring its own worries. Today's trouble is enough for today. So why focus on worldly things or the difficulties of tomorrow? We should not do that. We should not focus on worldly things or the difficulties of tomorrow. That doesn't mean that we should be neglecting everything. That is not what it says. Because Yahweh will take care of them, we should just, ignore everything and just let him do everything for us. That's not what he's saying. But what it means is the whole opposite of that. It means that we should do our part, we should do our job, we should work in alignment with his will, but we can do all of these things without having to worry or having concerns about what will happen. We just need to focus on intention rather than focusing on distractions. So if we focus and we do our part without having to worry about the future, we know that he will always be faithful, that there is no way for us to fail. There is no way for him to fail. So again, focus on intention, focusing on the things that he's setting in front of us for us to do, the thing that he commands us to do, and forget about the distractions, the worries of this world, the things that we should, like what we should eat, what we should wear, like the things that are needs in our life, he will always provide. We don't need to worry about that. And we can see this too when we consider Nehemiah. In the book of Nehemiah, in chapter 6, verse 3, Nehemiah chapter 6, verse 3, it says, I am engaged in a great work, so I cannot come. So Nehemiah was focused on rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem. And he was doing this despite all the distractions that were being brought to him. So his strong sense of purpose kept him on track. And that is the same way when we direct our focus on Yahweh's purpose for our lives and avoid distractions. We are always, when we do that, we are always in alignment with Yahweh's will. So when we read the book of Bereshit or the book of Genesis, in chapter 1, in the first few verses, we see that Yahweh has the intention to create the world. And we can see that he started to create the world. But right after, we can see that it says that the earth was formless and empty. The interesting thing, or the interesting fact about this passage, is that in the Hebrew, it doesn't say that the earth was formless and empty. What it says there is that the earth became formless and empty. Those are two completely different things. In the Bibles that we have nowadays, it says it was formless and empty, but in the original language, it says that it became formless and empty. That means that something happened that caused the earth to become formless and empty. Because we know that Yahweh doesn't create anything empty or formless or like without order. So that means that something happened that caused the earth to become formless and empty. So by looking at that, we can see and we can learn the next principle that I want to share today with you guys, which is disruption always follows intention. And it's disruption, not destruction. So disruption always follows intention. I'm gonna give you time if you guys are writing those things down, those points. Disruption always follows intention. So when we set clear intentions, we will encounter disruptions. This is part of the process, and we need to understand that. When we understand that this is part of the process, we will not get discouraged. And how can we know that it is part of the process? We can know this because it happened to Yahweh in the creation of the universe. So if disruption followed Yahweh's intention, what will make us think that it won't happen to us? It will be foolish to think that it will not happen to us. that disruption won't follow us. In the book of First Peter or First Kepha, chapter 5, verse 8. In First Peter chapter 5, verse 8 says, stay alert, watch out for your great enemy, the devil, who roams around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour. Again, disruptions and challenges are common when we are on the right path because they are meant to test our faithfulness. I'm going to say that one more time because a lot of people and a lot of teachers they like to say that when you are doing the things from Yahweh, everything should be smooth. Everything should be like a piece of cake, like there should be no difficulties, no trouble, no drama, no nothing. It should be super smooth. And that is not true. So disruption and challenges are common when we are on the right path because they are meant to test our faithfulness. And when I say this, a lot of time, these difficulties come from the enemy, but it also is allowed by Yahweh. We need to understand that as well. These processes, these difficulties are things that Yahweh are allowing to happen. And we can see that when we look at the story of Job. Job faced severe trials, despite that the scriptures tells us that he was a righteous man. And the thing is that it doesn't say that he was just a righteous man. It says that there was none like him on earth. There was no one else around the whole earth that was like him. And he says that he was a perfect and a straight man, a man who fears Yahweh and turns away from evil. And I don't know about you guys, but that is a very good resume or a really good letter of recommendation from Yahweh, because this is Yahweh. That is the interesting aspect of this whole description of Job. This letter of recommendation was Yahweh telling the devil about Job. That was Yahweh putting Job in front of the devil for the devil to go and attack pretty much and take away the things from Job. Isn't it that interesting? And you can read this. This is in the book of Job, chapter 1, verses 8 to 12. It talks about this, where the devil was talking to Yahweh, and Yahweh was presenting Job, like asking him, have you considered my servant Job? And then we can see, when you keep reading, that the devil took away everything from him. So if you guys want to read that later on, you can go ahead. It's a great, great story. But that story of Job illustrates that even when faced with significant disruptions, staying faithful to Yahweh can lead to great reward. So in his story, we can see how he started to become prideful. And we can see that in his statements towards Yahweh, and also how he was questioning Yahweh. Then we can see how Yahweh rebukes him and correct him by asking him 70 questions, 70 very difficult questions that no one is able to answer. So he was rebuking and correcting Job because his prideful came up, his pride. So he was questioning with these 70 questions that no one can answer to make him realize of his foolishness. But once he repented and he started to focus on Yahweh, he was greatly rewarded. He was rewarded double the amount that he was rewarded in the beginning. So disruptions are often a sign that we are moving in the right direction. But there is an important aspect of that, and it is that we need to make sure that we don't allow the disruption to distract us from accomplishing Yahweh's will. We cannot allow this disruption to take our focus from Yahweh to something else or to even ourselves. We cannot do that, because then we will become prideful. Then we will start doing things that are wicked. If we stay focused and we persevere in the trials and the difficulties, we will ultimately be rewarded, and we will bring honor and glory to our Heavenly Father. The third thing that we should do to stay productive is to seek a source of inspiration. We need to seek a source of inspiration. So to remain productive and aligned with Yahweh's will, seeking for inspiration is a very crucial aspect of that. In Proverbs chapter 2, verse 6, it says, "For Yahweh grants wisdom. From his mouth comes knowledge and understanding." So turning to Yahweh for wisdom and inspiration through prayer and reading the scriptures provide us with the guidance we need to remain productive. In the book of Psalms, King David wrote in the book of Psalms in chapter 119, in the verse 105, in Psalms 119, verse 105, King David says, "Your word is a lamp to guide my feet and a light for my path." So immersing ourselves in the scriptures help us gain insight and direction. And we need to understand these things, because this is gonna be making our path clear, and our efforts will be more effective. We need to understand that when we immerse ourselves in the word of Yahweh, we can then receive insight and direction. And our efforts in everything that we do are going to be more effective, because we're going to be able to do it in alignment to his will, because we know his word. We can find inspiration in many different ways, in many different things in the world. You know, we should never allow the world to dictate how we live. But there are things in the world that we think that they are bad because they are from someone in the world. But when those things from the world are working, when those things are productive, when those things are very effective, most of the time or every single time, the things that these people are doing are based in biblical principles. The things that they don't know that they are following the scriptures. So they obviously are not bringing glory and honor to Yahweh, but the things that they are doing that are working out very well is most likely because they are following a principle that is established in the scriptures. So we can see things from this world and we can grasp inspiration from the world, but it is crucial for us to be able to filter those inspirations through the word of Yahweh. The word of Yahweh has to be the final saying in what we will do, to make sure that we are not implementing wicked practices from the world. And obviously, the only way to be able to filter anything through the word of Yahweh is by knowing and understanding the word of Yahweh. So if we don't read the word of Yahweh, if we don't read it, we don't understand it, and we don't accumulate all of that truth in our hearts, in our brain, when things are presented to us in the world, we won't be able to quickly be able to filter that through the truth. There are things in the world that are true, but true is not the same as truth. The truth is the word of Yahweh. True is something that can change. The truth never changes. But things are true. Like I'm here in this room right now. That is true. but that is not the truth, because after this meeting is done, I can leave the room, and then it won't be true anymore that I'm in this room because I left. So the things from the world can be true, but not the truth. Well, we need to filter whatever we see through the truth of Yahweh. And that way we can implement the things that we grasp from other sources and make sure that we are doing it in alignment to his word. So with that, it leads me to the fourth point, which is that we need to learn something new. To be productive, we need to learn something new. So learning and growing are vital parts for productivity. In Proverbs chapter 18, verse 15, Proverbs 18, verse 15 says, "The heart of the understanding one gets knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeks knowledge." So gaining new knowledge is 100% in alignment to Yahweh's plan for our growth and for our effectiveness. The best example, in my opinion, besides Yahushua, obviously, who is the perfect example for everything, but beside Yahushua, the best example of this in the Bible is King Shlomo, King Solomon, who asked Yahweh for wisdom and was granted great understanding. And that is in the book First Kings chapter 3, verses 9 to 12. We can see where King Solomon is asking Yahweh for wisdom. So if you guys want to read that later on your own time with Yahweh, you can go ahead. You should read the whole book, not just that chapter, but First Kings is a great book where we can see the story of the wiser and the wealthiest king that had ever existed in the entire world. So his wisdom, the wisdom of that Solomon was able to receive from Yahweh, allowed him to make wise decisions and be successful as a leader. So in the same way, continually seeking for knowledge and for understanding help us become more effective in becoming the king or the queen of our assignment. Like just like King Solomon asked for wisdom to become the king. He was already set as the king in title, right? The title of King Solomon at that point was the king of King Solomon, right? But he was asking Yahweh for wisdom to be able to be the king, because his title was the king, but he did not know how to be the king, how to lead the people, how to be a servant and lead the people in the right way, because he understood that the people was the people of Yahweh. It was, even though it was his kingdom, he understood that he was there just as a servant to Yahweh and to serve the people. So he asked Yahweh, give me the ability to serve your people in a way that honors you and that pleases you. So he had the title of a king, but he did not know how to be the king. The same way we have already an assignment, but many of us don't know how to be the king or the queen of that assignment. So how can you be the king or the queen of the assignment if you don't ask Yahweh for wisdom and you don't seek guidance in his word, accumulating knowledge and accumulating understanding? So it's very important for us to continually seek for knowledge and understanding in his word. And that way we can become more effective becoming the king or the queen of our assignment. So the next point, which is the fifth point that I want to share, is recognize and celebrate your progress. Recognize and celebrate your progress. So recognizing and celebrating our progress is a very important aspect of becoming or being productive. In the book of Zechariah, chapter 4, verse 10, we can see that it says, do not despise these small beginnings, for Yahweh rejoices to see the work begin. So do not despise the small beginnings. It is very important for us to understand that. Even small steps forward are significant in Yahweh's eye. In Yahweh's eyes, when we are moving forward towards following him, that is a great win. As humans, we have a big problem, that it is that we tend to only focus in the mistakes, or we can also focus a lot in the things that we are not able to do, or in the things that we are not able to get when we want them. You know, there are things in life that we want whenever we want them. And if we don't get them, we forget of all the other blessings that we have. The same thing with mistakes. We can be doing great for a very long period of time, and we commit one mistake, and we forget about everything good and beautiful that had happened prior. But that is a wicked perspective of life. And that is a perspective that does not bring glory and honor to Yahweh. And that is exactly what the enemy wants us to do. That way, we are not grateful for the progress and for all the blessings we have, all the provisions, all the resources, the health. When we focus on the mistakes, in the things that we don't have, in the things that we would like but we cannot get, we are not grateful. And the scripture tells us that contentment and righteousness are great gain. And again, it's contentment. It's to be content, it's not to be complacent. Complacent is a complete different thing. And that is a wicked thing. We should never be complacent. We should be content. But complacency is something that will make us get stagnant. But contentment is gratefulness. And when the Israelites built the temple, they celebrated. They celebrated their progress. And we can see that in the book of Ezra. In the book of Ezra, in chapter 3, verses 10 to 11. In Ezra chapter 3, verses 10 to 11, we can see that it says, when the builders completed the foundation of Yahweh's temple, the priests put on their robes and took their places to blow their trumpets. The Levites, descendants of Asaph, clashed their cymbals to praise Yahweh, just as King David had prescribed. With praise and thanks, they sang this song to Yahweh. He is good, his faithful love for Israel endures forever. Then all the people gave a great shout, praising Yahweh, because the foundation of Yahweh's temple has been laid. So it is very important that we celebrate the small steps forward, because we can see how the Israelites celebrated because they laid their foundation. The temple was not built completely. It was just the foundation. But they celebrated because they were acknowledging and celebrating the achievement, praising Yahweh. So by doing those things, we stay motivated and recognize Yahweh's work in our lives. And that doesn't mean that we need to be irresponsible or that we should do dumb stuff or do things that are against Yahweh's will, because that's what the world calls celebration. When the world celebrates, they do everything they can to go against Yahweh's will. That is not celebration. We can see in the passage that I just shared that celebration is about praising Yahweh and rejoicing. And with that, I want to share the next thing that we need to learn, or that we need to identify to be able to be productive. And that is recognizing what separates you from others. You need to recognize what separates you from others. So that's the sixth point. What separates you from others? So creating distinction is understanding and embracing our unique calling and our unique purpose. In the book of Romans, chapter 12, verses 6 to 9, it says, in Romans 12, 6 to 9, it says, in His grace, Yahweh has given us different gifts for doing certain things well. I'm going to say that portion one more time. In His grace, Yahweh has given us different gifts for doing certain things well. So He says for doing certain things. It's not that we're going to do all things great. He has given us certain gifts for a specific task. So we are not going to be exceeding in every single area. We need to seek for help. We need to seek for guidance from people that are more equipped and are able to, are gifted in certain areas that we are maybe not gifted. We can find, this is the portion where understanding that we are created to create, to contribute, to connect, and to collaborate. So if we are able to connect with people and collaborate with people, we can grow together and we can be more in the image and the likeness of Yahweh. So in His grace, Yahweh has given us different gifts for doing certain things well. So if Yahweh has given you the ability to prophesy, speak out with as much faith as Yahweh has given you. If your gift is serving others, serve them well. If you are a teacher, teach well. If your gift is to encourage others, be encouraging. If your gift is giving, give generously. If Yahweh has given you leadership abilities, take this responsibility seriously. And if you have a gift for showing kindness to others, do it gladly. Do not just pretend to love others. Really love them. Hate what is wrong. Hold tightly to what is good. So that is very clear to me. That passage is so powerful. So we each have unique gifts and talents that make us suited for our specific role, for our specific calling, our specific purpose in life. And Paul explains also this in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 4 to 6. So in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 4 to 6, it says, there are different kinds of spiritual gifts, but the same Spirit is the source of them all. There are different kinds of service, but we serve the same Elohim. Yahweh works in different ways, but it is the same Elohim who does the work in all of us. So recognizing that while we are all equal in the eyes of Yahweh, we have unique callings. And if we recognize that, that will allow us to excel or to be great in our roles. We will be able to fulfill our roles here on earth. Because working really hard and being very productive in the things that we were not created to do is not and will never be as effective or as powerful or as impactful for the people we are serving that it could be doing that stuff that we were created to be or the things that we were created to do. So working hard in the things that we were not created to do is not as impactful as if we work hard in the things that we were created to do. If we are productive in the things outside of our purpose, we will never be as impactful as if we were productive in the things that we were created to do in our purpose. So when Yahweh tells us in the scriptures to work hard, to be diligent, he does not want us to work hard outside of our purpose. He wants us to work hard in alignment to our purpose, because that is in alignment to his will. And that is where we will exceed, and we will be great doing those things, and we will have a great reputation doing those things, and we will bring honor and glory to him. So another point that I want to share that we need to learn and understand to be productive is that we need to prepare for execution. We need to prepare for execution. So preparation is key to effectively execute. We can see that in Proverbs 21, verse 5. Proverbs 21, verse 5 says, good planning and hard work lead to prosperity, but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty. So again, I mentioned this already. It says good planning and hard work lead to prosperity. Again, when he's saying hard work, is in alignment to his will, in alignment to the purpose that we have in life. Hard work outside of him will not lead to prosperity. So planning and preparation are critical for achieving our goals effectively. And we can see a great example in the scriptures, and probably my favorite example in the scriptures about how preparing and planning and all of these things and hard work can pay it off at the end is the example of Joseph in the book of Genesis. Like his story is so powerful, and it demonstrates the excellent preparation leads to prosperity, because he prepared wisely by storing up 20% of all the food, all the grain during the 7 years of plenty to prepare for the 7 years of famine. So his careful planning ensured the success for him and for Pharaoh, and he also ensured the survival of the people that they were ruling over. Because if Joseph wouldn't done that, all the people of Egypt would have died. There would have been no one in Egypt alive at that time, because the people run out of food before the second or the third year of the famine. Because we can see that they saw, they pay money first, they run out of money, they pay with the livestock and stuff like that. So once they pay with livestock and the livestock was gone, that's it. So they could have food during the time of famine, maybe for a year or maybe two, because they had livestock. But after that, everyone would have died. But the planning, the preparation of Joseph ensured his success and the success of Pharaoh, because they became probably trillionaires by that time, because they acquired the entire land of Egypt. They acquired the entire livestock of everyone in the land, and everyone in the land was servant to them. So they became trillionaires, and everyone in the land survived because of the planning and the preparation of Joseph. So this is something that we can see, that when we, as righteous, chosen people of Yahweh, when we prepare wisely, the people around us will benefit as well. It's not just for ourselves, it's for the people around us. We will receive great benefits but the people around us will be very good because our planning and our preparation is effective in a way that is not just for us, but for everyone around us. Everyone around us will be impacted. So with that, the next point that I want to share for us to be able to be proactive in everything that we do is that we cannot save today's work for tomorrow. So the 8th point is not save today's work for tomorrow. So do not save today's work for tomorrow. And that is one of the things that many people deal with, which is procrastination. So in Proverbs chapter 6, verses 6 to 8 says, take a lesson from the ants, you lazy bones. Learn from their ways and become wise. Though they have no prince or governor or ruler to make them work, they labor hard all summer, gathering food for the winter. So the ants' diligence teaches us to avoid procrastination. So in the verse that I just read, the verse that I read earlier in Matthew, in chapter 6, verse 34, where Yahushua says, don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will bring its own worries. Today's trouble is enough for today. By focusing on completing today's task and not postponing those tasks for tomorrow, we honor Yahweh's provision and we honor Yahweh's plan every single day of our lives. So he tells us to don't worry about tomorrow. Today's trouble is enough for today. So we should take care of the things for today. We should not procrastinate the things that are for today for tomorrow, because tomorrow will have problems on its own. So if you push the ones for today for tomorrow, you are just accumulating problems and troubles and difficulties that you could have, spread it out throughout the year. You are all pushing them back together, like all together for one day. And that is why so many people get overwhelmed and they seem to not get out of the mess, and their life is chaotic and all of that. It's simply because we procrastinate the work for today for tomorrow, and all of that piles up, and then we are not able to fix the problem, and then we are in a bad situation and we wonder why. It's very clear. So in conclusion, aligning our productivity with Yahweh's will involves focusing on intention rather than distraction, involves understanding that disruptions follows intention, that disruption is part of the journey, is part of the process. It also involves seeking inspiration. So we need to understand that when we seek inspiration, we need to always filter everything through the scriptures, through the truth. Because if not, we're going to end up applying practices that are wicked, and we will not even know why we are missing out so many things or messing up so many things, because we are not seeking for inspiration in the truth. The next thing is gaining knowledge. The next thing that we need to also remember is that we need to celebrate the progress, the small steps, the moving forward, the little things. We need to celebrate those things. And I'm not saying to celebrate you need to go and spend money and be dumb and do like foolish decisions. That's not what I'm talking about. It's praising Yahweh, like I read earlier, how the Israelites were celebrating and praising Yahweh for laying the foundation of the temple. The next thing that we need to remember again is embracing our unique callings. We need to also prepare diligently and we need to avoid procrastination. So by incorporating these principles into your daily life, it will ensure you that you will honor Yahweh, you will honor and glorify him, and you will fulfill Yahweh's plan and fulfill Yahweh's purpose for your life. So if you implement all of that, you're going to be doing something that is very powerful. And I hope that everything that you do is 100% in alignment to the scriptures. If you take any of these principles and you apply them outside of him, you're going to suffer the consequences, because anything outside of him does not produce fruits. It produces wicked fruits, but not righteous fruits, which is the only thing that we should be producing. So may Yahweh bless our efforts and guide us in everything that we do.
Yahweh, Heavenly Father, we thank you for today's word that you've delivered through Christian. Yahweh, we ask you, Yahweh, to help us be productive in all that we do. Guide us to find your plan and purpose for our lives, our gifts and talents, to use them effectively, to implement them, to seek your word day and night. Help us continue to focus and neither look to the left or to the right, Yahweh. Help us look past disruptions. And we ask that you help us continue to meditate on this word tonight, throughout the coming weeks, so that we can continue to do everything according to your word and your plan and purpose for our lives. We ask this in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. So shall it be.
So shall it be.